council meeting.
Streaming.
Okay.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night, Carol.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, everybody, we're now on the ordinary council meeting for again September. So once again, just acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. We were due to have a presentation, but that is being postponed to another evening. Item 3 is attendances, apologies and applications for leave. So as said earlier, Councillor Mickelchuk is on a leave of absence. I'd like to request sort of partial leave over the school holidays, so the 28th of September to the 13th of October. So I'll be around with just minimal contact. Anybody else have anything? No? Okay. Public question time.
In a mover for that.
It's not proper leave. You can move it if you'd like. Councillor Gangel moved. I've seconded. So all those in favour carried unanimously. Public question time. Is there anybody left who would like to speak?
Nonnie Jacobson, Spartan Parade, Bassendean. I've just got a question regarding the previous item of the previous meeting that we've just had. Has a quantitative tree risk assessment been done by a qualified arboricultural consultant on the trees that already exist at number 1 Mayholman Drive?
1A.
I think the answer was not that they're aware of.
Okay. Might that be a good idea? To do a QTRA assessment? All of them? According to Councillor Wilson, a couple are going to be retained. Yeah, so it might be worth doing an assessment on their risk, potential risk, and
Sounds
recommendations as to their how they are to be retained and protected during development as per Australian Standard 4970.
I'm impressed that you know the number off the top of your head. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Bridges.
Paul Bridges, West Road, Bassendean. For month after month I've been asking the same question, and I'm just so delighted to be able to tell you that Mr. Reid sent the 48 letters out to those people that are going to be listed in the Municipal Heritage Inventory under the Town Planning Scheme.
Well done, Mr. Reid.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, in the same resolution that was carried back in May of last year, there were 2 other points. I have to put my glasses on. So now what I'll be doing is coming on to council meetings and asking these questions. When are we likely to pursue and see the heritage incentives put in place? And 2, the heritage precinct guidelines, which were also part of that motion. What's their current status?
Mr. Reid.
To answer the first question, officers have prepared like a discussion paper that's gone to the Design Basel Committee looking at heritage incentives, and I suppose the next stage in that will be bringing it to Council to seek some direction from Council. To the best of my knowledge, I think the funding for the heritage precincts was removed from the budget. It did not get out in the adopted budget.
So it didn't get a berth in the new budget?
I think so.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Could you just wait a moment, pause, just
I'm
checking, please.
Very patient. I'm not a member of the men's ship.
Can we maybe get back to you on that?
Yeah, you can get back to me on that.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Any other questions?
Nonnie Jacobson, Spartan Parade, Bassendean. I've got a question that I've been meaning to ask for quite a while. It's regarding your building applications and determinations and so on. Sometimes it says demolition and sometimes it says full demolition. Sometimes it says demolition of dwelling or house or whatever. I'm just wondering, what's the difference between a demolition and a full demolition? Is there a difference?
Absolutely nothing. I've been honest. It's
4 letters, mate. 4 letters.
It's data in, data out. It depends the way it was entered when the application was received, and then that comes out in the final report.
There you go. Now you know.
May I suggest that there may actually be a difference in that demolition of a dwelling may not necessitate the removal of all the vegetation on the site, and that perhaps the council could have a distinction between the two kinds of demolition going forward to encourage retention of vegetation.
The demolition permit just allows the demolition of the dwelling, and it's really I suppose, a statistical thing, so as we can advise that the EBS that a dwelling has been removed. No demolition permit allows anything other than the demolition of the structure, but there are no real controls over that.
Yeah, so that's not being looked at because people they tend to just completely flatten everything. So is there a way that could actually be looked at?
I suppose we are looking, I suppose, at finding a mechanism to incentivise tree retention and, I suppose, tree replacement.
Any further questions? Okay. 4.2, addresses by members of the public? Okay, moving on to, sorry, yes. Mr. Von Perger?
Justin Von Perger, 3 8th Avenue. I just want to say, now that the room is almost empty, I've finally got the courage to get up and say something. I feel totally unprepared for anything like this, but I'm sure if I got elected, I'd give it my best shot. So, but I'm absolutely stunned by the quality of the debate. I mean, the logic may not be there all the time, but the emotion, the feeling, the energy in the room, I mean, it really is democracy. People say that politics is local, and I've really had an experience of that tonight, so thank you all very much.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, item 5 is confirmation of the minutes. So 5.1 is the OCM from August. We have a mover for 5.1A. Councillor Quinton, seconded. Councillor Gandel, all those in favour, carried unanimously. And 5.1B, that it's a true record. Councillor Quinton moved, Councillor Brown seconded, all those in favour, carried unanimously. 5.2 was the special council meeting held on the 3rd of September. So a mover that the minutes be received. Councillor Gandel, seconded. Councillor Brown, all those in favour, carried unanimously. 5.2B, that they're a true record. Moved, Councillor Gandel, seconded. Councillor Quinton, all those in favour, carried unanimously. 5.3, special council meeting held on the 10th of September. 5.3A, Councillor Gandel moved, seconded. Councillor Brown, all those in favour, carried unanimously. 5.3B, that they're a true record. Moved, Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Gandel, all those in favour, carried unanimously. There are no announcements, there are no petitions, any declarations of interest, no business deferred. Onto the reports. In terms of items coming out of on block, I've got 10.3, 10.6, 10.7 and 13.1. Is there anything else? Right, so I'll move over to carry the rest on block. Moved Councillor Quinton, seconded Councillor Gandel, all those in favour. Kath, carried unanimously? Yep. So 10.3, which is the determinations by the building surveyor. Kath, you had a question?
Yes, I do. Speaking of demolitions, we have about half a dozen in there. I'd like to know from the officers where we might be at with a policy for retention of trees on private property. Is there any movement in that area?
One of the officers is kind of preparing a discussion paper, again with a view to go into the design Basel committee. I think there was like a watching brief, I think, looking at what other people were doing in terms of tree retention to see whether or not we could achieve something meaningful before coming forward with something.
Following on from that,
Yes.
there's obviously a difference between creating policies for tree retention at a development application stage as opposed to the demolition stage, and we all know from experience that most trees on a private property are obliterated during a demolition. Now, are any of these discussion paper items looking at the potential of creating policies to prevent the removal of trees at the demolition stage or not?
I suppose it's looking generally at the development stage rather than the demolition stage. So I suppose the answer is no, we have not really, without the legislative power, it would be difficult to do it at that stage. Just in terms of, the list that's there tonight, one of them is also linked to a subdivision, that's the 50 North Road one, and we've managed to put a condition on the subdivision approval calling for the identification of vegetation to be retained.
I was just going to add, I think if we look at the end-to-end process, particularly when properties change hands, is often where you see the scorched earth sort of approach happen when a developer purchases a parcel of land that has subdivision potential. I think given that we can actually identify when those transactions happen, it would be also an opportunity for the town to intervene at that point and communicate with the new purchaser to look at promoting the incentives that Mr. Reid is talking about. So if there's an incentive there for developers to retain significant trees and offset that through, building credits, for example, there's those sorts of opportunities. And they're the sorts of things that we can look at different stages, I think, of development.
So, I've been on council almost 2 years now. I'm getting old, and I'm really wondering if we're going to have a policy on this in the next foreseeable future. Because I think many of you realise a council term is only 4 years. Could I ask that perhaps we might have something in the near future before I actually end up dead and buried under a tree?
So when's it due to come to design, Basso? Next meeting?
Oh,
great.
Excellent. Right.
Thank you. Question?
Question,
Yep.
yes. Just following on the theme from Councillor Hamilton, could one of those incentives to retain trees be the ability not to put gutters on your home? I know it sounds like a simple thing, but if you are going to retain a very tall eucalypt that towers over your home, if you have the ability to create an alternative in your roofing system to a gutter, developers are more likely to retain that tree. You say you put gutter guards in, all manner of technologies, but none, they all bank up leaves and create rust and all the problems associated with clogged pipes and gutters. So if that could be considered.
I love your thinking, but at the moment we're talking about the determinations by the building surveyor,
Well,
and I'm
that was just
sure we
the
can have lots of input at that.
Yeah, you know what I
later
think
on.
anyway.
Okay, any other questions, Councillor Hamilton, or can we move?
No.
So is there a mover for the officer recommendation? Councillor Gangel, seconded Councillor Brown. All those in favour, carried unanimously. 10.6 accounts for payment. Another query, Councillor Hamilton?
Well, the first one is entertaining, given the previous meeting. So, EFT 38461.
Which page, please?
It is page 2 of 13, which is the first of the July financial payments. And I may have forgotten, I just don't recall, there is a payment here for the men's shed as a sponsorship. What was that sponsorship for? $1,700. It's not anything to do with their parking and traffic management, so I'm curious what the sponsorship is. I've probably forgotten. It probably is something that we've passed, but I cannot remember.
We
Might
could
need to look into
take that on
Okay.
notice.
Right. Then we've got, I just need a question on this because I'm not sure what we're doing, so it's a finance question through the chair. It is EFT on page 3, EFT 38484. We're transferring funds, 250,000, transfer held grants money. Now that's in there's a few of these throughout the document, and I'm just curious what is happening there. Is that to change it from one particular reserve fund to another, or I don't know.
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton. Yes, it's to give effect to the budget recommendations
Yep.
at the end of the financial year.
That's what I thought it was, but I just wanted to check because I wasn't sure. Bottom of page 3, we've got we've got Metropolitan Library Courier Service 2019-20, $6,208. Is that for the transfer of books between libraries or something? Just seems like a lot of money for running a few books around.
It does seem like a lot of money. I think it's for the full financial year, but I would have to check exactly what it's for.
Okay. Then we go to page 4, which is EFT 38509. No, wrong. 08, sorry. Arbor Carbon. Order the street trees. This is the ones down Old Perth Road, I'm sure. This is the 3rd time I've seen a payment figure for these guys for what seems to be the same audit, and I'm really concerned how much they've been paid for that audit all up. Anyway, it's 2,277. So can somebody please tell me, it doesn't have to be now, but can someone tell me how much we actually paid total for that audit? Okay, moving right along. My old favourite. On page 5, EFT 38539, Bassendean Tennis Club, Bassendean Tennis Courts Maintenance. We've doubled this month. We've gone up to 4,582, actually more than double. Again, I have said this before and I'll say it again, I don't actually understand why we're paying the tennis courts to maintain the tennis courts when we have in-house maintenance guys.
Specialist, yeah.
And it's, if that's for the month, that's over $1,000 a week.
Sorry.
It's not a question for me, sorry.
If I could just explain how that actually came about. The town used to actually conduct the maintenance of the tennis courts. It is a specialist field for maintaining the tennis courts. The tennis club were dissatisfied with what the contractors that the town had doing the job, so council then resolved to allow the tennis club then to facilitate the maintenance of their own courts.
Okay, so I recall an incident last year where the maintenance of courts was so lacking that there were apparently nuts on the court ground, or droppings from tree droppings, which then necessitated the butchering of half a dozen trees at the back of the tennis court, theoretically because the dropping of the nuts was not being cleaned up. So that was maintenance which was not attended to, and we're paying for that, and then we're paying for an arborist to
we'll
cut
be
down all the
paying for it
trees.
anyway.
Okay, so is
Moving
there
on.
something that you wanted followed up about that or not?
Yes, I'd like to know why we're paying them that amount of money, and if that's for a month, because that's extraordinary if it's for a month. Then we've got on page 5, EFT 38559, which is cleaning of various buildings, $35,916. They seem to have gone up a bit as well, but maybe someone can actually tell me what's going on with that.
That's our cleaning contract.
Yeah, I know.
And at the moment it is higher than it normally is because we're on a month-by-month extension while we undertake a procurement process to re-let the tender.
Okay. It just seems to be a contract that varies up and down a little bit. I don't quite understand why, given we haven't increased any buildings yet. I'm sure we'll be cleaning another one soon.
Some of the others are subject to just variation given different days and months, different weekend versus weekdays and so on. So
Okay, that's fine.
There is some slight variation from
Sometimes we get call-outs as well, like for example, the toilets behind us were in a state the other day that we had to bring in somebody at short notice.
That's fine. I was just curious because it was higher than standard. Okay, we have on page 6, Department of Biodiversity Conservation, we returned unspent funds for foreshore restoration works, $10,642. I would have thought our foreshore is so degraded we wouldn't be giving money back, but yeah, that's stuck out a little bit. Sorry.
No, that's quite okay. I'm unable to answer that question.
No, that's fine. Take it on notice.
So, Councillor Hamilton, how would it be best? Because Councillor Hamilton's very good at going through the details. Would it be best to ask these questions in advance so that you can have the information on hand? Or
I think whilst it's a line item, it's one of obviously 14 pages of payments that were made during the month. And whilst it is a payment that comes through the finance area, which is within my area of corporate services, the reason for the payment could be anywhere in the organisation. So to provide a meaningful response, it does necessitate some sort of coordination between the different areas of the organisation.
Look, I understand that, but also by the same token, I only got these on Friday afternoon, so it's just trying to catch up with this stuff. Anyway, I do have a couple more. Our office milk supply has tripled as well, but it must be very good for the face, bathing in milk. That's on page 2 of the next ones. We have here on page 3, replacing a damaged bus shelter in Devon Road, which was $10,333. So
we removed that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's got here that we paid $10,333 to replace it.
Sorry, what number is that one?
That is EFT 38718. No, 38748.
That'll be likely the concrete slab that's now there.
Maybe. I don't know. But because we've talked about this previously.
And also, sorry, just with some of the fluctuation that occurs, we did experience a situation in July where we were forced to perhaps delay some payments. So some of these figures in August could actually represent like the milk supplies a couple of months worth of
Okay, no, that's fine. This is only a small one, but on page 3, we actually paid $3,720 for variations to the landscaping plan for Pensioner Guard Cottage. Now, given that the changes to that landscaping plan were so minor, I actually didn't expect us to be paying that amount of money for that. Can someone follow up on that? Because I didn't think that we were paying for that again. So, and last but not least, okay, on page 4, EFT 38782, we paid $12,400 for the One Planet staff training. Now this one I have a question about, because to join the One Planet was relatively inexpensive. And then we're paying $12,000 for the training. So the question I have for the administration is that if we are joining any of these type of facilities, or whatever you'd like to call them, can we actually be made aware of the potential for extra charging for things like this before we actually decide to vote in that? Because I'm not entirely sure that I would have. I like the One Planet.
I believe that was in the report when Council endorsed the One Planet.
Okay, well then my memory is shot.
Yeah, so this incorporated training, I think from memory, for 16 or so people, but it was incorporated in the officer report that came to Council. We incorporated the training.
Okay, well I've forgotten them, so that's really terrible. How must be losing brain cells.
It's actually really reassuring that there are occasional things that you forget. Okay, are you satisfied with that then?
Oh, I could go on a bit longer, but I won't.
All right, so we have a mover. Councillor Gangel, a seconder. Councillor Brown, all those in favour, carried unanimously. 10.7 was the implementation of council resolutions. Again, Councillor Hamilton.
Okay, we've got on page 21, we've got 2 here. which is both the last two on that page. And it says that this was moved by Councillor Gangel, Street Art and Furniture, seconded by myself. I just don't feel that has been fulfilled, because the whimsical art is just one aspect of that motion. Then the last motion on that page was Councillor McLennan, Community Street Art Competition, moved seconded Councillor Mikachev, that council requests the event staff to explore the possibility of the community art. Again, I don't feel that this is like a prize. I don't feel that's been done. So I'd like those two removed.
So that's RAC 18/64237 and 64232.
64239
Oh, sorry.
and 64237.
That's what I read, but that's not I'm sorry.
Right, then going to the last page, which is page 24. We have here ROC 19/67364. It says here that all items on that have been completed. This is for Mr. Phil Adams. I recall that during that meeting we did talk about the spare bus shelter that you've got somewhere over in the depot, which might possibly be used for another location. But that's not mentioned in here, and I was wondering what's happening with that.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, through the Chair, we are preparing a report of an assessment of all the bus stops around Bassendean with usage, and we'll provide that to Council through the Asset Committee.
Do we have to go into that much depth?
It's not
I
much
thought we could just
detail.
find the one where the old people go and stick it there.
There's a couple of suggestions that we have. There's a couple of suggestions that, and the numbers the numbers are just a stat that we can just press a button and give you the stats.
Oh, okay. So we what I was hoping was that the folks up at the corner of Walter Road and Lord Street might eventually get their bus shelter back, given that they are very, very subject to sunstroke when they're sitting there, and they're all from the Lord Street development.
Okay, well, I'll have a look at that one as well, because there's been a few other suggestions at the few other places around, which I shouldn't try and name because I forget where they are, but I'll have a look at that on the list.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so that's just the two being removed. So do we have a mover for the OSCE recommendation with those two resolutions being removed? Councillor Wilson moved, seconded Councillor Gangel. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now, I don't think we need to go behind closed doors unless anyone needs to ask a specific question, but 13.1 is the Sports Achievement Award. Is anyone happy to move the officer recommendation? Councillor Quinton, seconded. Councillor Gangel. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. And meeting is closed at 9:38 p.m. Thank you, everyone.